Hello, welcome. Thanks for joining me. I know most of you will watch this after it's live, so you haven't actually joined me yet. But I mean, to you, it's yet. I mean, you are now. I'm earlier, but to me, I'm not earlier. To me, I'm now. I mean, I know you call it now, but now's not now because you're watching later. So for you, now's not now. But for me, now is fucking now. So I'm getting it uncut. I'm getting it pure uncut now. You're getting later, partially diluted now. Please take a moment to share this. Let folks know to join us. Thanks for being here. And I want to get into a few stories. I want to break down some of the garbage from our mainstream media. Hello, Double B. You are enjoying the and Keel and others. Maureen, you guys are at the now, which is I'm impressed. I'm very impressed. I mean, jumping into now is that's double wow. Okay, and I meant for that to rhyme. Although John's saying I look recorded. I don't. Does that mean I look tired? If I look tired, do I look recorded, or do I look better recorded? You saying I look good? Hey, John, how you doing? Okay, so I wanted to go into some articles and show you I've talked about before about the 4 layers of reality. Now there's more than 4. I just when I brought up the topic, I called it the 4 layers of reality because I gave 4. So I'll keep calling it the 4 layers of reality. Why not? So I want to go through a couple of articles, one from Reuters, one from Bloomberg, and show the different levels of reality, the kind of surface level that most people read an article by, and then what's going on beneath it. And usually what's going on beneath it completely upends everything that's on that surface level that most people are taking in, which is really kind of sad, but it goes to show how the propaganda works. I think there's a fair number of these writers that don't even know how their propaganda works because they're so saturated in our cultural zeitgeist, in our world. If they're writing for Bloomberg, then they have bought into the fucking Wall Street hook, line, and sinker. So it makes sense that they wouldn't, as I say, my favorite story of the 2 fish, and one of them says, "How's the water?" and the other says, "What's water?" So they're living in the water and they don't see it. And after saying all that, I realize I haven't yet gone live on Rockfin. So we got to do that. All right. I think that's going now. By the way, speaking of going live, there's not going to be a live stream this Sunday. We do it most Sundays, but with Eleanor Goldfield. But because we got other shit going on. Sometimes we get too busy. However, there's plenty of other shit. There's a new Redacted tonight that comes out tonight that you guys got to see. Will completely blow your mind about what's going on in our prison industrial complex. So, first article here. This one is from Bloomberg, and it's about how affluent Americans are rushing to retire in a new life is short mindset. They say that they're viewing life as short. The rich are. It says in an unprecedented surge in shares and home values during an economic crisis is easing the retirement path for those who have savings and investments. First of all, isn't that great? Isn't that great that the rich can retire a little earlier? Because I was worried about them. Because they always look so like they're working so hard, don't they? They're like the uber rich. I'm talking the multi-millionaires, don't they? They look like they're really working hard. They deserve a break, don't they? Just deserve a break. So it's good to see. Good to see they're retiring a little early. Okay, so let's get into it because I really want to break down how they cover this. After a year of early Zoom calls, the specter of a deadly virus, and soaring stock and real estate values, working American baby boomers who can afford it plan to get out while the getting's good. About 2.7 million Americans age 55 or older are contemplating retirement years earlier than they'd imagined because of the pandemic, government data shows. Data's plural, I guess. Government data show, whatever. They're more likely to be white. You don't say. A group that typically has a larger amount of accumulated wealth. You don't say. And many cite robust retirement accounts and COVID-19 fatigue for their early exit, according to interviews with wealth managers and federal surveys. So let's take a second on this. first of all, no big surprise when they mention that the rich are more often white. There's a reason for that, right? There's many reasons for that. And it has to do with the systemic racism in our society, in our culture. Our culture and the American country and the American experiment has been built on the backs of many people. Now, there are many white struggling people as well, but there is not systemic racism against white people. That is not saying white people can't be poor. That is not saying white people don't work hard. It absolutely can mean all those things. But there's not systemic racism against white people in general when you're talking broad strokes. Yes, there could be somewhere a black-owned business that doesn't like to hire white people. It's not saying it never exists, but systemically, it doesn't exist. And so you have generations of this wealth being extracted to white folks. Not to all the white folks, right? Many of you watching this may be going, hey, I'm white and I don't have much money. So the system is not, hey, all white folks get rich off of black folks. The system is tiny little segment of white folks get rich off of black folks and Hispanic folks and many folks. But there is a systemic racism. That means that little tiny bit is mostly white folks. Now, there's some exceptions, right? And the Republicans especially love to run them around and hold them up and go, look, Ben Carson or Herman Cain. Look, a black guy got rich, CEO, awesome. And they're the exception that proves the rule, right? But they don't like to mention that. So even though that you know this stuff is not really arguable, like if you understand anything about the system, about our capitalist system, but about America, about how it's built, how it's been built over generations, this stuff isn't really arguable. But they're not going to mention that, right? Bloomberg's just going to say, hey, there's this group of people that are really super rich, multimillionaires. They're thinking of retiring because they have so much money. They just don't even know what to do with it all. You know how that is? We just have so much money. They don't even know what to do with it all. Well, that's how they feel. And they happen to be kind of white. Who knows how that happened? They happen to be kind of white. I don't know. Maybe they don't like tanning or something. They just stay indoors a lot, I guess. So they mentioned a little aside that they're mostly white, and then they talk about these high property value. All property values have gone up, and people have done really well during this pandemic. Certain people have done really well. This article is not going to mention that the reason that the rich are doing really well during a pandemic is because the poor and the lower classes are exploited more than ever, are struggling more than ever. You have many of these businesses fired people that were kind of in the mid-level or whatever, and those people don't have jobs anymore. People working at bars don't have jobs anymore. Working at restaurants don't have jobs anymore. All those people get fired. Meanwhile, you have people with stock in Amazon doing great, right? People with stock in these corporations. Stock in Dollar Tree was another one I read. That is the owner of the CEO of Dollar Tree has tripled his wealth or whatever the fuck during this pandemic. So it's always an exploitation, a large exploitation of the rich versus the poor. But that has accelerated during this pandemic. And you've seen, Zuckerberg and Elon Musk and Bezos have multiplied their wealth some insane rate. The rich, by the way, the billionaires, just the billionaires, which is a sociopathic level of rich. I mean, there's a tiny number of billionaires in this country, and it's an insane, bananas amount of money. You hear it thrown around so much, the billionaires. You hear it thrown around so much that you don't think it's a crazy, the billionaires. But it is fucking nuts. It's a nutty amount of money. And just the billionaires have gained something like $1.3 trillion over this pandemic, while the people struggle more than ever. Sorry, trying to catch some of the comments for a second. So yeah, they're richer than ever, and you have. Well, I'm gonna keep reading some because I want you guys to hear it. Hear some more of it. So let's get some more of it. Much like U.S. economy's so-called K-shaped recovery, the pandemic is treating the affluent differently, empowering them to have a corporate life, to leave corporate life early. Others who lost jobs had to delay retirement or grew discouraged and retired before they were ready. Early retirements, whether desired or forced, will deprive the labor market of some of its most productive workers and have an impact on the economic recovery that is still too early to evaluate. All right, let's think about that for a minute. It'll deprive the labor market of some of their most productive workers. Now, these words, we take these words for granted and we just go, oh, yeah, productive worker. Okay, hard workers, cool. But think about what they mean, what they're talking about there, depriving the labor. They're talking about, because this article is clearly, they've said about the uber rich, right? This is millionaires leaving their jobs. This is corporate titans leaving their jobs for retirement. And they're saying, the labor market will lose these people. But these people, the vast majority of them, not every millionaire is a sociopath, but a lot of them are. These people are largely, where are the jobs where you get that kind of level of rich, right? It's being executives at health insurance, executives at war profiteers like weapons contractors, executives at big pharma. It's working in real estate and buying up tons of shit and owning our world. Those are the type of jobs where these people get this rich, right? Or being some sort of hedge fund manager, something with Wall Street. That's where most of these millionaires are being minted. Big banks, all the people that work at big banks, the high-level lawyers. That's where these millionaires are being minted. So these people, most of them, again, this is not all of them. I'm not saying no one, started knitting their crafts on Etsy and it went viral and they became rich. I realize there are some exceptions, but most of these people are doing horrible shit, right? This is horrible shit. It's like the vast majority of these corporate titans that get that rich are doing awful shit. And they've gotten there by being awful human beings, right? By being willing to crush others to get there. That's generally how you get there. Again, we're speaking in broad strokes. And so Bloomberg is worried that these people doing awful shit, getting rich in awful ways, might leave their jobs. And then we'd lose some of our most productive members. Now, I just want to, you've got to pause and think about what productive means. Productive of what? Well, like I said, some of them might be doing good stuff, but a lot of them are doing awful shit. Every time these people take a break from their job, that's better for the world. Every time an oil executive or someone even lower down in an oil company decides to take a break and something doesn't get done, that's good for the world. Every time some executive at a factory farm where they're fucking torture farming 10,000 hogs takes a break and stuff slows down because they took a break, that's good for the world. So when they say productive at Bloomberg, a lot of the time that means fucking awful shit. But all of that stuff I'm listing is viewed in our lingo, in our world, in our culture as productive. And there's even things, just the way our system works, this can go for people that aren't rich as well, right? Like a lot of people work for big banks that aren't rich. A lot of people work for McDonald's, which is doing all its horrible factory farming shit. It's one of the biggest, it and Coca-Cola are some of the biggest plastic contributors in the world. And these people work for these companies because they've got to make a living. I'm talking lower level people. I'm not talking rich people. And, they're working at these places because they need to make a living. Some of you may work there. But that doesn't change the way the system is. That doesn't change the way that what McDonald's does on a whole is fucking horrific. Not to mention that McDonald's killing all of us, too, that, people that eat there. I'm not saying I eat there, but plenty of people eat there. And it's killing us too. So it's killing its own customers, giving them diabetes and heart disease and everything else. But that wasn't really my point. My point is what it's doing to the environment, what it does to the world. And that's viewed as productive, right, in our society. Now, I'm not saying you couldn't have a debate as to, well, I think fast food's great and I want it everywhere. And these are wonderful people that give people fast food. You can have that debate. But when you just use one general umbrella term like productive for all industries, of course they can't all be doing positive stuff for the world or for you and me, right? So we use this term productive to really cover up all level of sins, all level of vile garbage. It's productive. That you could look at any, and there's within industries, there's some people who are productive in a good way and some who are productive in a disgusting way. I would like to consider that what I do for media, for non-mainstream media, is I would like to say I'm productive at making people aware of this shit. So I don't mind being called productive in that vein. But if you were to just say media figures are productive because they're working hard and they're on TV and stuff, then you'd have to include people like fucking Greg Gutfeld and Anderson Cooper. Are they productive? Yeah, productive at fucking destroying the world, productive at manufacturing consent for war, manufacturing consent for the prison industrial complex, manufacturing consent for the destruction of the environment. So those people are all productive. So, and I think that even people that are aware, quote unquote woke, might read this article and see the word productive, and it rings a positive bell in your head, right? You're reading through it and you're like, oh yeah, they're productive. But we have to stop and think about what productive means. And of course, this makes reading an article take a little longer, right? You got to stop with each sentence and go, well, what's really fucking going on there? What does that sentence really mean? Let's see here. Go through a little more of this. Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell this week cited a significant number of people saying they've retired as one reason companies are reporting labor shortages, although it's unclear if they'll eventually rejoin the job market. In the Minneapolis area, so-and-so, 58, is among those who chose to bow out after a career in industrial giant 3M company. I've never heard of them, so I don't actually know if they do anything positive for the world or not. But so let's even though I don't know anything about them, let's assume for a minute that they do positive stuff. Let's say they're building, I don't know, green energy or something you want to view as at least partially positive. Let's say they build machines that recycle stuff, and you're like, okay, well, that's a positive pursuit, right? So let's give them a benefit of the doubt. Say, oh, this company's positive, and this guy got rich as a, they said he was a executive or manager. What do they call him? So among those, they just say a career. It doesn't say what his position is. But anyway, if we're assuming he's somewhere in the higher ups, and I don't mean executive board, but one of the managers, top managers at this giant, they said, industrial giant, then his job, the way he's gotten there for the most part, is usually by being willing to exploit workers as much as possible. Now there may come moments in his life where he's more or less in your face fucking exploiting workers. He may have been the brainstorm behind how to gut the union and save them money by cutting all of the health care in their company. Who fuck knows? Like that he could be a bad guy like that, or he could just be one that hasn't had that many big ideas, like let's get rid of all the health care. And he's just quietly doing his job as one of these top level managers. But the systems are still set up in a hierarchy that is designed to exploit the lower levels. Let's make sure they're paid as little as possible. Let's make sure they have as little health care as possible. Oh, this health care plan will save us $1 million a year. Well, it means they don't get, help with maternity or help with mental health. Hey, if we cut mental health out of the health care system, we could save $2 million a year by not giving our workers mental health option. It's that type of thing. And you get to that upper level of management by being that kind of douchebag. Now, if we had democracy in the workplace, we had workers voting on these things in a more equal way without this hierarchy, because corporations and all of our companies in America are a dictatorial, basically, system where it is run by either a one person or a tiny elite board makes the decisions, not with the workers. So what do they choose? They choose the stuff that can exploit people the most, that can fuck them the most, that can steal the most money. They're never once have they been at that boardroom and they're like, you know what? These workers really are. I feel like they deserve some dental care. I feel like they, it'll cost us a lot more, but we should just really help them out. That never happens. And if that guy gets to the top of a company, he's not there long. Because the rest of the board, who are also sociopaths, they go, I don't like how he lost us $4 million by giving them dental. Instead, it's the reverse, that in those moments where the workers gain something, it's usually by fighting back. It's usually because the company thought they had a profit motive to, let's say, give the workers dental. Maybe they did it because they were having trouble getting enough workers, and they were like, hey, if we throw in dental, I think we can get some more workers, whatever. Maybe that's the reason. But still, that's a profit motive. That's never done out of just a pure, I just want to help these people kind of mentality. Let's see what else we got here. And then I want to move to the other article. Let's see. So here's where they get into the life is short mentality. This is a quote from that worker. It makes you think, does all this matter as much as you think it does, says DiLorenzo, who retired at the end of March. DiLorenzo's cohort is one better known for hanging on to their jobs as long as possible, usually retiring later than their European counterparts. The potential exodus from the corporate world, combined with a sharp increase in the number of business owners seeking to retire sooner than they anticipated, is a worrying phenomenon for companies that rely on their accumulated expertise. In addition, burnout among older physicians and teachers is pushing some to an early exit, threatening shortages in healthcare and education. Okay, so they've kind of conflated two things. Now, I'm not saying that, obviously, that teachers or what was it, the other medical professionals, I'm not saying all of them got to their positions by exploiting people. That'd be pretty funny if that's how they pick teachers. Hey, you're really good at slapping those kids around, and I saw you stealing their lunch money. That's pretty great, so we're moving you up the chain of command. Now, I'm sure politicking inside the teacher world could be important, but it's different than the corporate world in terms of exploitation. But so they've kind of conflated. They throw in there that line about teachers retiring. Now, teachers are retiring for other reasons because they've been forced out. There's not as many teaching jobs. Some of them were way before the vaccine was available or anything. We're being told, hey, go back into your classroom and just get COVID because we don't give a fuck about you. So some of them retired because of that. So they're throwing these other retirements into the bucket of retirements. But they initially were talking about the very rich who have gotten very richer during this pandemic. Initially, this article is not about teachers, but I think they realize if they throw, hey, teachers retiring too, then they get people to not think this is just an article about rich people. But another point here is, they're talking about how worrisome this is, right? That it's you're losing productivity, you're losing good workers, you're losing these people that really have expertise in their field. But as that quote, that at least they did include that one quote about the guy who said, "Does this matter as much as you think it does?" One of the few hopes I have for this pandemic is that some of the people realize how meaningless so much of this work we do is. And, again, I get it if you're trying to earn enough money to survive. But a lot of people are fighting tooth and nail every day at shit they hate, to afford some larger, celebrity style life, and they're trying to own a McMansion and have 3 cars and shit like that. There are some people in America like that. And, I hope that the pandemic has made some people think, like, does it matter? Does it really matter? Does all that shit matter? Does the 3rd car matter? Does the fucking green lawn matter? Why do I need a giant house? What really matters in life? And if we could figure that out, I'm not saying I have all the answers as to what really matters in life, but if this pandemic made a few people rethink what it was that they were devoting themselves to, what their passion is, where their soul is, where their urgency is, where their energy goes. If it made some people rethink that, then I think that's a beautiful thing. Now, I'm not saying I love it if someone's, got a job that they've spent 15 years trying to get, and then they suddenly realize it's worthless and they hate themselves or something. I'm not trying to make people miserable, but I think that the pace of life goes so fast, and the world our consumerist world is designed to grab your attention in every fucking particle, every minute, every second, just here, this. And it's designed to do that because it kind of helps us not analyze things. It helps us not look at the bigger picture. It helps us not dig in deeper and go, should this really be this way? Like, should I really have to work this hard to make my life function? Does it really make sense that we don't have healthcare in this country? Does it really make sense that we have 2 million people locked up behind bars? Does it really make sense that I should hate someone 100 miles away across the border because they were born in another place on the earth? It helps to make sure we're not analyzing those things. And when we slow down and start looking at things and aren't able to go out because of the pandemic into all these frenzied spaces and frenzied movement, I think a lot of that could be a good thing. So I'm kind of hopeful that will continue, but who knows? Maybe the moment people can go out, they just want to get back to ignoring it all, to ignoring the reality, to ignoring what it is we could really be on this planet, as opposed to this fucking capitalist shit show, false scarcity garbage heap. All right, I'm running out of time, so I want to move on to another article that I found interesting, again, on the multiple levels of kind of reality. Like, this is the surface level they're going to tell you to look at. And then if you really think about what they're saying, you dig down a little deeper, or sometimes it's what they're saying, sometimes it's what they're not saying. You dig down a little deeper, you see the reality of what it is we're living against, we're living through, we're dealing with. All right, so this is from Reuters. Let's see. All right, this is a Reuters article, Reuters standard kind of neoliberal garbage rag, but, what else do you expect, huh? All right, so they're talking about senators examine Caterpillar tax probe under former AG Attorney General Barr's office. Now, first of all, when I started reading this, I very much hoped that they meant like a caterpillar, like the insect hadn't paid his taxes, and Attorney General Barr had looked into this insect, and he's like one of the adorable ones with the stripes and everything, and he's just kind of going along a branch, and he's got a whole team of Justice Department people surrounding him, screaming at him. So that was my hope. But it turns out they don't mean a caterpillar. They mean Caterpillar, the corporation. So, all right, let's see here. 2 Democratic U.S. senators are questioning whether political interference during the Trump administration hampered a Department of Justice investigation of heavy equipment manufacturer Caterpillar Inc., according to an announcement this week by the Senate's Finance Committee's chairman. Former Attorney General William Barr, Caterpillar's former lawyer, ran the department while the investigation was underway. By the way, before we get into this, and this will play a role later, but they call it a heavy equipment manufacturer, Caterpillar, but it does a lot of heavy equipment manufacturing for war, for Israel's occupation, for all this awful shit, building walls, terrorizing immigrants. Caterpillar is kind of known for destroying the planet, mining operations. So Caterpillar is kind of known for doing all this awful shit. Like they just, they'll fucking sell, dump trucks to fucking mercenaries to bury people with. They don't give a shit. And so Caterpillar, it's kind of on the cusp of war profiteer. I mean, it is a war profiteer, but it's on the cusp of weapons contractor. They don't actually make munitions, but they're basically making the shit that militaries use for war without it being bombs. So when they say heavy equipment, yeah, slightly heavy. All right, so Attorney General Barr, did you catch that? Used to be Caterpillar's lawyer before he became Attorney General. The chair, Senator Ron Wyden and Senator Sheldon Whitehouse, wrote to the Department of Justice and the IRS, citing a November Reuters report that the probe of Caterpillar had been stalled while Barr was Attorney General. The Senate letter seeks information about Caterpillar and another unrelated case. Reuters has disclosed that 6 days after Trump nominated Barr as head of the Justice Department in 2018, the investigative team in the active criminal probe of Caterpillar was told to take no further action in the case. According to an email written by the agents, Barr has said that as Attorney General, he would recuse himself from any Caterpillar matters. So basically, the moment that Caterpillar's former lawyer becomes Attorney General, suddenly the Justice Department says, let's stop looking into Caterpillar. Let's stop looking into what fraud or tax evasion or whatever the fuck they were looking into that Caterpillar was involved in. It's time to stop investigating Caterpillar. Total corruption, obvious corruption, absolute corruption. And I agree, they're covering this article because this basically shows corruption. It shows, people that are connected to a corporation becoming the powerful people that are able to shut down investigation into that corporation. Now, here's what Reuters won't tell you, is that although this is very corrupt, and Trump is corrupt, and Attorney General Barr is corrupt, this is also just about the norm in our government. Endlessly, on a day-to-day basis, shit is done for corporations because the Congress people, the president, the administration, cabinet members, people in other posts, they are somehow connected to these corporations. They're either funded by them, they're donors to their campaigns, they used to be lawyers for them, they have them as advisors, they have a promise that they'll be hired as an advisor later down the road. Whatever it is, there are a million ways to Sunday that this kind of shit goes on every day. And usually it's not done quite as obviously where, Barr, let's say, Attorney General Barr says, hey, shut down the investigation. Usually it's not done that obviously, but it's done all the time. So Reuters doesn't want you to understand that this is not a rarity. This is only a rarity in that maybe how obviously it was done. They did it. So this is done under both administrations. It's, don't investigate them. The number of fucking corporations in tax havens. I mean, Google and Apple have their headquarters for a while it was in Ireland, then it was in the Isle of Man off of Britain. I mean, they hide their headquarters so they don't have to pay taxes to the United States. All legal. All of that is legal and fine. And it's exactly identical to this, right? It is the same level of corruption, the same kind of corruption. It's just done slightly differently. And so for Reuters and for these Democratic senators, Wyden and them to go, oh my God, I can't believe what's happening here. What did they shut down an investigation? This is totally the norm. And that is something you because they're trying to make, political hay out of it, they can't mention that is the norm. They can't, and both sides do this, right? The right wing did it against Hunter Biden. Totally corrupt. He's put on this board in the Ukraine because they just wanted his name, because they knew his name looked good. It would help them get shit, help them get deals with the United States and elsewhere in the country, in the world. So they throw him on this board, throw him $50,000 a month, probably never even call him up. Who the fuck knows? Maybe they fly him into town for some drinks every once in a while just to make it look like they work with him or something. But really, just, full on bullshit, standard, throw Biden's name on there. Now, Trump and them were going, oh my God, look at this Hunter Biden corruption. Meanwhile, they're doing all the same shit, right? So it goes both ways because both these parties, and until this gets into your head, you won't understand anything that's going on until this gets into your head. Both of these parties are woefully and utterly corrupt, and so is the system in which they live. They have gotten to this point. They have become politicians. They have been in the Senate for 30 years. They have been passed around from position to position because they are part of the mafia that owns the United States, the capitalist mafia, right? The oligarchs. They are part of that system. They get passed around here and there, and they go to different places. The fucking head of the Pentagon right now was with Raytheon for fucking years, all right? He was executive board of Raytheon. And now he's the head of the Pentagon. And Raytheon's profits have jumped through the moon while he's at the Pentagon. So there you go. Same shit. Same revolving door. Both sides. But this article, Reuters, and the two Democrats want to make this about how Trump was and Attorney General Barr were more corrupt than we've ever seen. But in fact, it's all very corrupt garbage. So this article's almost over, so I might as well finish it. Let's see here. Barr had been retained by Caterpillar in 2017 as a private lawyer to help resolve the ongoing federal investigation into allegations. Oh, here we go. I said I didn't know what Caterpillar had done wrong, but this is the accusations. Federal investigation into allegations that the company illegally routed some profits through a Swiss subsidiary. The company said it acted properly. Reached Thursday, Barr declined to comment. Caterpillar spokesperson did not answer. So this is standard operating procedure. And corporate America's job, right, is to exploit Americans in general. Caterpillar, just like any other capitalist corporation, they're probably finding ways to pay their workers, the lowest level workers, the least. They're probably finding ways to exploit people in other ways. They are a company that is destroying our environment more than most companies. And they are incredibly successful at doing it. And they then find ways to hide their money so that they don't have to pay taxes into the system that made them rich. So, whatever they funneled through the Swiss subsidiary was probably to avoid taxes or to avoid some kind of payment. And this is the norm, right? This is all of your largest corporations are doing this. There are $30 trillion in tax havens outside the United States. This is the norm, and these are the most successful corporations, the ones that learn how to do this well. And here's the thing, even if they were caught, even if that investigation had gone through successfully and Caterpillar had been caught and the government had said, you fucking did this illegally and you need to pay for it, what would have happened? Caterpillar, or may still happen if they succeed. What will happen? Caterpillar will pay a fine. Let's say it's a big fine. Let's say it's $1 billion or something. It's not that much to them. 500 million or something. It's not that much to them. It'll be like maybe a parking ticket, maybe a rough parking ticket, maybe a fire hydrant, in front of a fire hydrant kind of parking ticket for their company. And so they will not lose out enough for it to matter to them that they went through this. But yet they still had Attorney General Barr use his corruption, use his corruption brain to drop the investigation, because that's how these systems work. And then these corporations, many of them, they fund both sides. They fund the Democrats and the Republicans. Caterpillar obviously failed to fund those two Democrats because those are the ones coming after them right now. But in general, most of these corporations, the large ones, fund both sides. They fund politicians on both sides so that they can know whoever gets into office, they will own them, basically. They will have them on a leash. And most of the time it works. Most of the time, neither side is really going to go at these corporations in a large way. Honestly, some of the most fearsome, yet of course it was idiotic at the same time, but fearsome stuff we saw against like Google or Amazon was from Trump. Not because he's somehow better or less corrupt, but because he's so narcissistic and megalomaniacal that he just wanted to harm certain corporations that he felt were harming him. So, Washington Post prints garbage about him, which they did. They print all kinds of shit. And so Bezos owns the Washington Post, so Trump goes after Amazon. Now, that's a little different than most of our past presidents. They've all been pretty well in the pockets of these corporations. Now, unfortunately, at the same time, Trump was also trying to enrich other corporations. He was in bed with Sheldon Adelson, who gave him hundreds of $millions, in bed with Robert Mercer, a notorious awful hedge fund manager who is doing everything to destroy the country, basically on the leash from the Koch brothers as well. So, it's not like he was some sort of anti-corporate avenger. He just had a couple of corporations that he hated because they had wronged him, and so he was going after them. Here's the last point I'll make about how ridiculous this article is. Oh, Caterpillar did wrong. Whatever amount of money, they didn't say the amount of money, whatever amount of money Caterpillar hid through their Swiss subsidiary, or, did tricky shenanigans and put in a little box over here that no one could see, whatever that amount of money is, it will not even hold a candle to the amount of money that is wasted in our Pentagon, on our military. There's the kind of $1 trillion a year stated budget that we spend on military every year, more than almost all the other countries combined. And then there's the $21 trillion of unaccounted for adjustments in our military. And right now, you have those two senators going after Caterpillar saying, we want the IRS to audit you to get to the bottom of this. But none of these senators seem to have much of a problem when the Pentagon came out and said they failed their audit. They were audited for the first time ever a year and a half ago. It took a year for them to be audited with 1,000 auditors. And how did that result? What was the end point? What did they come out and say? Here's the audit. What did we find? They came out and said, we failed the audit. And that was it. That was the end of it. Failed the audit. Didn't know where the money's going. Can't figure out where the trillions of dollars are going. Can't figure out where they went, where they're coming. Like Cotton Eye Joe. Where you coming? Where you going? They don't even know. They just came out and said they failed their audit, and it's basically not been discussed, not been mentioned, not been. They said, we have no idea where the money going, and almost all of Congress said, okay, fine, cool, thanks for that, got it, no problem. We're dumping trillions of dollars into a machine that does nothing but obliterate human beings, but blow up human beings, but kill children, but kill elderly, but kill people around the world. We're dumping $1 trillion a year into that. You don't know where it's going. Okay, fine, cool. That's what they said. It's fucking insane. It is. Whatever amount of anger or ire or fury you want to point at Caterpillar, which is a horrible organization, a horrible corporation, whatever you want to point at that, fine. Then also point 100 times that at the military-industrial complex, which also works with Caterpillar. I think they use their machinery, so it's all the military-industrial complex really includes Caterpillar. It blows my mind that $21 trillion, it's actually more like $35 trillion of unaccounted for adjustments at the Pentagon. And no one seems to care that they failed their audit. No one in government seems upset. They're all just bought out. I mean, the Pentagon owns them. They know they can't go against the Pentagon, can't go against the deep state, can't go against CIA, FBI, cannot. And if you begin to, you will be fucked up. You will get fucked up. Chuck Schumer even said it. He said the quiet part loud, live on television. He said that I don't know if he called him the deep state. I think he said the CIA, he said the intelligence community. He said you go against the intelligence community. They have 100 ways from Sunday to get back at you. That's what he said. And that defines the whole system. You cannot go against them, or they will stop you if you are a politician, if you are in the higher echelons of power. And there you go. There you have it. All right, so those are the multiple levels of reality in that article, right? You got their little surface level. Oh, Caterpillar did this thing. Then you got the down level of lower level of this corruption goes on immensely everywhere. Then you got another level of actually that's how the system's set up really to further this kind of exploitation and extraction, to further this kind of corruption. So it's really meant to be like that. Then you go down to level 4 and you get well, yeah, but not only is it like that, but our military is 100 times worse than what you're talking about, than the whatever amount of money was lost in this Swiss subsidiary. So yeah, there are the 4 levels of reality. Like I said, you can keep going deeper if you'd like. There's plenty more levels of reality. If you want to talk about the fact that that nation states don't really exist. They're all in our mind. Or how about the fact that money is meaningless and it's just a fucking idea that we decided to come up with, and 98% of it is never printed. It's just in a computer somewhere, and it means nothing until it's used, and then it can mean a lot if you buy a bomb and kill someone, or buy a whole amount of land and real estate and destroy people's lives. Yeah, so you can use it to destroy lives, but it doesn't actually exist except in our imagination. And yet we're allowing it to kill the planet. We're allowing it to kill our environment. So yeah, you can get pretty deep into the different levels of reality. But I think those first four are kind of important to consider when you're reading these articles from our mainstream media. All right, there's a lot going on tonight. There's a new episode of Redacted tonight. That comes out. You can watch that at portable.tv, the full episode, unedited, portable.tv. Just scroll down to, once it's out, I think it's 8 p.m., maybe it's 6 p.m. I don't know when they put it up, but you go to portable.tv, scroll down. It's got each show listed. Eventually you'll get to Redacted tonight, and you can play it there. Play the new episode. I'll put it up on my website, but sometimes that takes a little time. And we'll be live streaming Government Secrets at 6 p.m., I believe, Eastern. These are all Eastern times I'm giving you. 6 p.m. Eastern, we'll be live streaming another Government Secrets. Of course, Government Secrets then comes out on the podcast format a day or two later, so it will be up everywhere eventually. That's at Graham Elwood's Rockfinner YouTube channel. And then, so that's tonight coming up, and I got more stuff going forward, but yeah, check out all that shit, and I will see you soon. Oh yeah, if you donated, all the donations are going to help those in need. And if you are struggling and need a few bucks, email comments censored at protonmail.com, our little solidarity fund we got going. Like I said, there's no live stream this Sunday. We normally do them on Sundays with Eleanor Goldfield, but we will be back at you soon. And please join the email list. That's really important, because I'm suppressed on every other way, but I'm less suppressed on the email list. So please, I beg you, join the free email list. You can text the word redacted to 33777 in the U.S., or you can sign up on the sidebar at leecamp.com outside of the U.S. All right, keep fighting.